Welcome back to another episode of Searching for McGuffin, or rather a new season of Searching for McGuffin with your hosts,
George.
Gabe.
And that's all for today.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
empty.
Usually welcome to another season.
It's crazy. Season 3?
Yeah. This is the start of our third year on this journey, this search, if you will.
For real. Like, I think it's, it puts things into perspective. Because it's kind of like, we've been doing this for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's been that long.
It really does not. And yet, how much has our life changed in those
Everything's changed.
2+ years?
Like, we have cameras and video for
That's
this
right.
when we were like all huddled around one mic when this first
yeah.
started.
In our top 5 series that started this show.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, this isn't a recommendation.
Yeah,
to
definitely
do
is
so,
not a
but,
recommendation.
But those first couple episodes sounded a bit rough.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of what I think there's like the beauty of that is like you can go back and listen to that, and like now it's not like we're a huge production with writers and stuff behind it, but like it is an upgrade.
Yeah,
like it's an obvious upgrade.
It's growth, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
I was just thinking about this. Super off topic already, but
Mhm.
we're kind of stream of consciousness today.
Yeah.
I was watching Only Murders in the Buildings.
Only Murders in the Business.
Only Business in the Murders, and I saw Steve Martin, and I don't know why the thought popped into my head. Oh, there's a musical aspect to it this season, so I guess that's why. And I thought, I've seen this man perform like folk music.
Really?
Yeah, he has like a band, and he's performed, and I've seen it.
Like live?
Yeah, and it's like, this is interesting. He's also written like musicals.
Yeah.
I'm a big Steve Martin fan, and Bright Star.
Who isn't?
And Monsters, and it's just interesting to think this great comedian is also like a folk music, like country music, not country. It's really like folksy. And I'm like, he's not the best at it in the world. He's good, but it's not like, oh, what a legend, you know what I mean? And I think he just does it because he finds like it's a passion. He just finds like enjoyment out of it, and because he can,
Yeah, and I think obviously he's a successful, performer, artist, creator. And I think, once you get to that point, I guess at that stage in your life and you have the ability to, well, why not?
Yeah.
Why not work on the things that do the things that you like to do? And, very few times, on special occasions, there are, people that can be great at more than just, the thing that made them great in the first place, the thing that first got them big. They can, delve into other fields and be really good at those. I mean, you can see that with sports.
Yeah.
So professional athletes.
I was actually just gonna say that.
That play like, they can play 2 different sports and like be great in 2 different sports. Like players like Bo Jackson and players like that, and just there's a bunch of players that I can't remember
even not be great. Like for example, when Jordan became a baseball player. Like, he was good baseball player. He was like a competent baseball player, right? But a lot of the criticism, at least when I was growing up, which is when it was happening, was like, oh, he's such a great basketball player. Why would he play baseball? Well, because he can. Because he likes baseball. And I'm pretty sure playing, like, Major League Baseball, right? Is that a fact?
Yes.
Major League Baseball made him a better baseball player. He might not have been the greatest Major League Baseball player, but I'm sure he was way better than when he wasn't playing Major League Baseball,
For sure.
And I'm sure touring and performing and writing songs made Steve Martin a greater songwriter that made him a greater performer overall, even if he's not the greatest one ever. And that's I think that's us. Like, obviously we have day jobs, we have careers, and we have our own studies, but we've been doing this, and I think it's grown. And we've grown.
No, for sure. We've grown definitely since the beginning of this. And I mean, this is kind of like pandemic period that kind of started. And, the world has changed since then. But yeah, I think that, with the beginning of a new season, which obviously we're excited to be back with all of you and with, each other, even if not everyone is present. I think it is very, I think it calls for like reflection,
Yeah, even then you said like we're not all here. At the beginning was like we can't have an episode unless we're all there. Everyone's universes have to align.
Yeah.
And then we started bringing in a couple of other voices, and sometimes the host would drop in and drop out to the place where we are now, where we're confident, and we're like, let's just start the season. We can even start the season with just the two of us.
Yeah, because I mean, that's life, right? You know, not everyone's like schedules are gonna align. That's how it is. People are busy. People have their lives, and we don't do like this. Isn't this isn't our main job. This isn't our day job. We do this because we enjoy this and we like to do this and talk about it and have conversations with each other.
With even that, like this has exposed me to the medium, and it's exposed me to other shows where you see it happen. Also, I see mess ups and just kind of roadblocks, and you see the show format get mixed up and the hosts come and go, and it's actually a part of life even in the industry itself, which I like to think we're just a little small slice of the replication of that process.
Yeah. And no, like I was saying, like the beginning of this new season, like it's made me start to think, like it got me thinking about, kind of like the beginning, like especially in this point in time. This point in time is kind of like the beginning of a new school year for you.
Yeah.
New school year for me, new term for me.
Yeah, two of our hosts, I'm including, producer Dan and Link, who aren't here. For two of us, the four of us, we're in the education field, so it's like a start of like a career year, and then two of us are still studying. What's the word I'm looking for? Upper education. I don't know.
Academia.
Yeah, right. Studying higher learning. I guess that's the term I was looking for. And so it's a starting point, right, for all four of us, and I think for a lot of our audience too, because we have a lot of students, professional students, academics, people in those fields, and I think for a lot of our audience as well as us, the four hosts, it's the start of a new cycle for us.
Yeah, and even more than that, I mean, even more than just being in the academic setting, I think we're all students in life, and
that's true.
We're all constantly learning and evolving, and I think that this new season, the beginning of this first episode, this beginning of a new season, gives us the opportunity to kind of like reflect on that and look back and also see how far like we've come, how much has changed recently, because I mean a lot has, but also a way to move forward with this show, the content that we produce and everything that we do.
The cycle also affects other people too, because you have parents, so even though they got the January to December cycle for themselves, they're still operating in that. And then also just like in Miami here in the urban environment, the traffic is way different when there's school and when there's not school.
Completely different.
Yeah, so everyone's like patterns and routines change as well, regardless if you're directly in education.
Well, I mean, it's true. Like at this point, like with traffic, you have to leave at least an hour and a half before, like earlier. If you're not going to sit in like an hour and a half of traffic, that means, pretty much people are going to have to go to bed earlier the night before and, cut plans. And that, you don't really notice those things, but it's like, it's the little things that like they cause a chain reaction in our lives.
Yeah.
And so, it's very small, but these changes, turn into big things.
I do know.
In the grand scheme of things. But yeah, what's up with you? What's been new with you?
Well, we said we were coming back in September. I'm not sure if we gave a specific date, which we're still honoring that. Actually, no. By the time this airs, it is no longer September, but we're back in the studio here in September.
Yeah. It
took a little longer because there's been some changes in life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me personally, I guess it was just that wrapping up the season during the summer. That's always hard. We went all the way, I think, our first season, which we were going to keep doing shows all throughout. Then we came up with an end date in season 2. We're like, we're going to stop here, and we're going to try a little bit of a format change. For those of you that may have missed it or may have not remembered, we went some shorter episodes, and we tried a couple of different things to kind of inform where we're going this season. The writer's strike, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that has been a big thing that has affected this show indirectly. I mean, it's not directly. We're not working in the fields, but we have friends and family who are directly involved. But it's also shaped our media consumption habits too. And there's a lot to unpack there. I know it's like pricing structure, uh, content creation, things like that, which we're going to get to on today's episode. But I think for me, it was just an exhaustion.
Yeah.
You know, I was exhausted. I was exhausted from work. It didn't help that I went like on a 21-day tour as soon as I was over, which we covered last season. But then just not just that, but I was also just exhausted with intaking content and exhausted with this show. None of those things was the exhausting part.
Yeah.
But all of that like
together,
yeah. It was a lot. I don't know if I'm making sense or if
No, yeah. I mean, it's like it's different aspects of our life, our social aspect, our, the things that we like to do, the people that we like to spend our time with, but our professional lives as well. And all those things kind of bleed together. And when it may not be a lot by itself, but you keep adding weight onto your pack. It's going to keep sinking down. It's going to keep weighing heavier and heavier on you to the point where you're exhausted. Like you're spreading yourself out too thin.
Yeah.
In a sense.
I think every season of this show, the end has been an opportunity to reflect in a way that I think many people look at the past year when, January 1st comes around, or they look at the past year when their school year is over or whatever, or their birthday, oh, what was my last year like? And I think that this season has been a new milestone. Like when the end of it is, what was my life like this season on the show? I think the first year, it was like, we want to talk about all these things and why they're important. And the more we dug into it, we started asking the question, I think, in season 2, which was, okay, how is it important? Like we got kind of to the why all this stuff is important.
Yeah.
How does it affect us in our everyday life and connecting with some other people, getting a couple of different voices on the show. And then the question I had by the end of season 2 was like, is this important?
Yeah.
Because I think when we launched this show, we were living kind of on the cusp of an industrial revolution of media, where it's like, it's better than ever, baby. There's endless possibilities and unlimited horizons in regards to what we're going to see and hear and watch. And 2+ years into that, it's kind of tiring and
It's exhausting.
And we've been thinking deeper about what the meaning of it is. And I think we're ready to go beyond the media into the meaning in our life, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, I think, obviously, like you said, when we first started this, it was a lot of, why are these movies important to us? Why are these shows, video games important to us? Like, what's the point here? Like, why are we spending so much time? I mean, we have these conversations in our, in our own lives, and we wanted to, share that with other people. But like you said, like last season, especially towards, like, everyone has, their own situations. But for me, like last season, it was the busiest and the hardest semester that I'm ever gonna have.
Yeah, people kept reaching out to me asking if you were still on the show.
Yeah,
and I think it was a running joke towards the end that you were not, that you had left the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure we ever cleared that up before the season was over.
Surprise. No, but it's extremely grueling. It was difficult. It was hard. It's notoriously, like, in PT school, it's a doctor program, so it's like, it's obviously going to be challenging, but that last term, it was, jam packed every single day, like 8-10 hour like days, that's filled with class. And then you have to find some point to study. And then, once finals and midterms and practicals come around, that's another, like, you have to prepare yourself for, like 2 weeks of straight, like, you're not doing anything else. You're just grinding it out. You're practicing, and like, going to bed late, waking up extremely early, and you're doing that every day for like 14 plus days, until you get to the end of it, and, hope that you survive. That's kind of like what it was like. So it was difficult for me to be able to keep commitments and be on this show, as much as I would like to. But that's the beauty. It's like, it's not the end of the world,
Yeah.
Like the sun rose. We're here. I had my break. I went to Colombia, which is
The
great.
Sunrise. That's a great Hemingway book.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read it.
I haven't read it.
You should.
Maybe I will add it to the list. But it's like I went to Colombia. I spent time with family that I haven't seen in a long time. I was able to come back and spend time, developing, meaningful relationships and be able to rest, like really just relax and do nothing. Even funny enough, like part of that time was being able to catch up or just utilize a lot of these streaming services. Catch up on the time that I didn't have watching, and it was interesting. All my time binging, basically, just I was watching Suits. I had seen like the first 5 seasons, and then like when it came out.
Your TikTok told you to do that also?
No, like I mean, I guess technically, indirectly, like all my a lot of my friends and a lot of people, and it was like on the internet, went viral again, even though the show had been over.
Right.
Then I was like, all right, let me, I didn't really remember a lot of things that I had seen last time, so I decided to start from the beginning, and I was plowing through it, man.
That's crazy. How many seasons is that?
It's 8 seasons. I'm on,
and that was on Netflix, right?
Netflix,
because
it had Netflix or Peacock. Right. It's on both. So I'm on 7 of those. I'm on 7, I think. But even then, I realized it's like this is so much. It's so time consuming.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess kind of led us to think about where the show wants to go,
Right. Finding that balance.
Exactly. But I think a lot of this, internal dialogue and obviously external dialogue, I think started when in the summer with the strike.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the strike was a big catalyst for a lot of. It
was a wake up call for me. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, and it's not like, these things affect us like indirectly, but like these are people's like lives and like their livelihoods.
Yeah.
That are after this.
And we say indirectly too, but now as we get older and we know people within the industry, even tangentially, animators, writers, their jobs are, technical people, their jobs are dependent on productions that get stopped because of these things. So even if they're not directly striking themselves, even then, we have family who's in animation, and we know that now, for example, Marvel visual effects people have moved to unionize to try to kind of fight for a lot of these things. And we saw a domino effect where it started with WGA, the Writers Guild, and then it went into SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and a lot of these conversations started happening out in the open. It's almost like there's this book, The Jungle. I don't know if you read it in high school, right? So that opened up the conversation naturally about the meatpacking industry and food and drug reform, and it was that in the sense of how the sausage gets made. All this TV and movies, the fact that you have a bazillion things to watch, there's a reason why they can produce so much of it, and part of that is what goes on behind the scenes and exactly who's getting compensated for what.
Exactly. And it's not only just the writer, like you said, it's not only just the writers or the actors that this is affecting. It obviously, like their organizations are the ones that are being very public with the strike. And I think even just recently they approved the one for the video games.
So
correct?
By the time we publish this, by the time our audience is listening to this, they've already gone back to work. I believe Sunday is that's it. They have the go ahead to go. So it's already been voted. The strike is over, and I believe everybody can report back to work at the start of this week.
I mean that's happy for them. Like it's a couple of months of battling and trying to figure. I still have to read up on what they all agreed upon, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna have an episode covering.
Yeah, we'll go into more depth after like some of that fallout is clear. But from what I have understood is they got a lot of what they were looking for. So it was definitely, they held out. We talked about, I think, before we went on break, about how they were going to basically be starved out of home, and that didn't happen. I think that they got to get most of what they were looking for.
I mean, some of the quotes that I was hearing from a lot of these bigwigs from these corporations was just, kind of appalling.
Yeah.
To listen that it's like basically that we're just going to play chicken with them and see who blinks first. Like, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like these are people's lives that you're dealing with.
And I always try to be measured in my criticism and giving the benefit of the doubt or attempting a balanced opinion.
Yeah, I'm biased.
Yeah, because this happens like in our, we have a, you know, a group chat where we discuss some of the topics that end up being discussed on this show. And I know that a lot of it is like creator friendly and pro creator for obvious reasons, but there's also business aspects to it that I may not agree with personally, but I may understand the rationale, right?
Yeah.
The goal of this content creation is to make money, whether we agree with that or not. It's why we get what we get. But like you said, some of the things that were being said directly by the very people who make these decisions was, yeah, a little frightening, I guess. It was hard to defend.
No, for sure. And like you said, like this revolution of, you know, basically the advent of like, you know, streaming in general, you know, with all these streaming websites rolling out and all the platform, like all the platforms that they have, and the accessibility to it all, and especially the content, the amount of content that has been released has been astounding. Like it's unprecedented. There's never been something like this before. To the point where like, yes, like, yeah, like it's a kid walking into a candy store. You think take your pick and do all this.
Oh yeah, we did have an episode about that at some point.
Yeah.
And I think we're way further now than we were then.
Yeah. And I mean, it calls back to it because it's only growing. It's exponentially growing. And I think it's really, at least for me, I know like we've had some discussions about this, but I think for a lot of people, it's kind of just, they're like, we're tired. We're kind of tired.
Fatigued.
And yeah, like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, you have the choice to not watch these things, to you know, to prioritize your time differently. But I think for me, as an individual that's, you know, consume media, like just a lover of film and obviously these high production television shows, that have been coming out. Like, I think for me, it's been hard to let go of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like if I'm not up to date, I'm left behind.
Right. And because it's funny because I connect with content in this way, and it's funny the words that we even use, but I connect with art as an escape from so many of the things that I think we as people fall into, the traps we fall into, like societal expectations and trying to meet them. But then this becomes part of our identity. And now here I am trying to meet a societal expectation. I have to know about this. I have to see, watch, experience, consume. Otherwise, I'm not who everyone expects me to be, and I'm not who I expect to be. You know, I'm supposed to, in my case, connect with the kids on a certain level at work. I'm supposed to be prepared for this show that we have, and I'm supposed to be the one to drive conversations when we talk about topics like this.
Yeah, like in a lot of circles, I know that like you're the TV guy, you're the movie guy, you're the tech guy, you're the guy that has to do with basically media. Like, you know, like, you know when this is coming out, you know what's coming out, like, you know the backstory behind all of this. And it's like, you know, it's kind of like these self-imposed expectations that we set upon ourselves, that it's like, in reality, there's no, like, there isn't no one's really like, you know, depending on us for
nobody really
this.
cares. Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, but it's something, like I said, like, it's something that like I've been doing for just such a long time that it is so hard to not necessarily do that, because I was talking to you about this.
It's
earlier.
hard to unplug, I think.
Yeah, and it's like I can't think of, like, you know, the last time that it's like I was going to bed not watching TV or some sort of like
right
movie, TV show that I'm watching currently, sports or whatever it is.
I thought the greatest idea I ever had was, I can just put the shows on my iPad while I run on the treadmill. I have the perfect spot in my shower where I can shower while I catch up on an episode. If I take a 22-minute shower, then there's an episode, boom, right there, you know?
Oh, yeah, like, and you said, like, you know, a lot of this art has been, you know, for us, it's been a form of escapism, but I think for a lot of people with the amount of content, the escapism that we were like so fond of and trying to search for has just become reality, in terms of like we're trying to fill every waking moment with that.
I'm glad you brought up escapism, because there's two dangers there, I think, in my life. It's one, escaping so much that I lose sight of what's important in the real world. And two, escaping so much is, like you said, that becomes my life. And now I'm just trapped in this, you know, reality. And you can extend that to anything in your life. You know, for some people, maybe that's the internet, it's gaming. For some people, it's drugs. For some people, it's whatever,
Vice.
yeah, not even just vice, also the social group.
Yeah, too much of a good thing can be bad.
Yeah, just wrapping your identity in this like singular thing.
Exactly, and I think like that's why I thought this episode was such a great opportunity to reflect upon that, because that's what I've been reflecting on. As I move on, professionally in my career, my academic career, and my life, I've learned that it's like time is one of the most valuable assets we all have.
Yeah.
And where you spend your time is so important, and who you spend your time with is almost equally important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for me personally, I realized like, hey, I don't have time to watch this, even though like before I would just like Stranger Things or like The Witcher, whatever like Netflix drops on like a weekend, like a season long thing. It's like typically, yeah, I'm binging that whole thing. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there's still times where it's like, I have some time, I have, some free time to kill, and I'll do that. But from that, like recently, it's like it takes me weeks and weeks to finish something that, will usually take me days.
Yeah. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And because that's really life. And there's responsibilities and there's priorities that I've had to put above that. Obviously, like, I think that's what it comes down to is priorities, like what you're putting above other things and what you're really spending your time on. And I think for me, I've just kind of I was at odds a bit. I think towards the end of last semester, I was so busy with school, I wasn't able to do my, like, go to like, escapism and watch the TV and watch this stuff like that. To the point where like, I kind of felt like I overindulged on my break.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, there's too many things going on. And I need to reset and rethink a lot of, things that I'm spending my time on. Mainly, it's media. It's media consumption that has been a lot of. That's not to say like I'm going cold turkey and not watching it. No, for sure. Like I'm watching my things. Like
I mean, yeah, we'd have a lot less to talk about here, I think.
That's true. But I also think that there's so much stuff out there. I think the onus is on me to. That's not necessarily onus on other like streaming services, because that's their business. They're trying to make money. They're trying to make a living. The onus is on me.
Oh man, are they trying to make money?
Yeah. The onus is on me to like make wiser choices for where I want to be in life. You know, and spending it with who I want to do it, and yeah, that's the point that I think I've really been thinking about these past couple of weeks, and I'm excited to be back here refreshed. And I think we talked about it in the group chat. Some of us were kind of burned out, not necessarily with the show,
right?
But like you said, once you start, putting a lot of weights on your back, once you start, like, there's a lot of other things going on in your life, it all starts to accrue and build up to the point where like you do burn yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like with life, with the show, with relationships and friendships and social life, it can be a lot. It can be draining.
Yeah.
To the point where like you can kind of like build up like it could be resentment eventually if left unchecked.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's kind of like it becomes kind of like a chore.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I have to show up this week. Oh, I have to do this, and it's like, no, like we do this because we enjoy this.
Yeah.
And we get something out of it, and we love to like share with people, that anyone that cares to listen to this or watch this.
Yeah.
Like that's been important. Like we have people that support us, which we're lucky enough to have.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, yes, like we wanna be able to reach more people, but I wanna have people listen or watch our show because like they enjoy it and like they get something out of it, instead of what I think a lot like towards kind of towards the end sometimes we are guilty of is kind of just reactionary content.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just what came out this week.
What do we think about it? Good or bad?
Give us a very ambivalent or what's the word I'm looking for?
Ambiguous.
Yeah. An ambiguous rating.
Yeah.
Score. But yeah, I mean that's been one of the big things that I think we talked about as a team, as a group, that we don't want to like kind of go into too much.
Yeah.
Because even that type of content, which we like, I'm not knocking it, but I also think like there is an oversaturation in that market in that terms.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like I don't like necessarily want to be giving someone something that they can just get anywhere, you know. I want to like have conversations that I have, like genuine conversations with you, with, you know, Link, with Dan, with Lay, with anyone that comes on the show, and something that's like, you know, meaningful and that you can take away. You can take something away from it.
Yeah, I think the goal is to share your experience and to learn from the experience of others. And we went into this season with that mindset, and I've kind of been applying that to the other facets of my life. Like we said, it's the start of a new school year, and we going back to what's been going on since the season. With that starts a new, you know, career year, and I was like, I'm gonna really make a go of it because I was probably in a lull creatively in my career, and it's up here, you know, but I'm kind of having a career renaissance again up here. I'm not making more money. I'm not probably most people won't notice the difference, but to me, it was evaluating why we do the things we do, and if they're not hitting on all cylinders, what is it that we can do to make them meaningful again? Because they have meaning. You know, this show has meaning. My career has meaning. Our relationships have meaning. So when some of them start to either decay or decrease, evaluating that and finding the meaning and attaching that meaning and just kind of muscling down and prioritizing things, you know, always making sure that you find balance. And that balance in the Force to me is for that light side to overcome that dark side, you know, rather than the yin and yang of it all.
Yeah, I think that was just an excuse to make Grey Jedis a thing and to make it cool. So
yeah, okay, that's fair too. Yeah, I've been speaking in riddles lately, and I think my students are probably becoming frustrated with it. But I think there's gonna be a little bit of that because I'm kind of on an existential journey, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know all the answers, but I'm looking for the questions.
No, and especially like speaking more on that, I think one of the main focuses of this season is to have conversations like that, have conversations about that, to talk about these things, obviously, like how we said over and over, which are important to us. But I think not limiting it to the content, the media content that we've been so accustomed to, you know,
because it goes beyond that.
Yeah, the TV and the movies, and yes, those things have a place. And I think the inception of this show started with finding the meaning behind those things and understanding why it's so important. But I think you put it very well earlier, kind of like how is this important?
Mm-hmm.
And truly like searching. No, there it is.
There it is.
Searching for, kind of going on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Kind of going, you know, we've gotten beneath the surface of it, but kind of going even deeper than that to really find out, like, to really like understand people. Yeah. I think, you know, us as humans and how we connect each other is one of the beauties in life, and how like something that I've enjoyed, you know, in my life so far is meeting new people, and even meeting people that I've known for years, but meeting a new version of them.
Yeah.
And what we have to learn from each other is an exciting prospect that, you know, hopefully like that's what I want to kind of like, as a group, I think we want to like we want to, ¿cómo se llama? Bring that on. We want to bring that on in this show. And, you know,
like the hit films, Bring It On.
Exactly. Classics. But yes, having people, having more conversations, you know, kind of having intimate conversations about things that are important to each other.
Yeah, because that happened like last season. Sometimes we'd come because we had to do an episode. But once we got into the nitty gritty of it, it was like, oh, wow, I really enjoyed it. I don't know if anyone else did, but
yeah,
I did.
Yeah, no, it's a reminder of like, you know, sometimes we get lost. We get lost in the sauce a bit. Like
we forget to connect.
Exactly. Like we have these assumptions that it's like, oh, like how's this gonna go? Oh, is this gonna be, you know, a waste of time or not like where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
But I liken that to times when I don't want to go to the gym.
Right.
Like, you
when
know,
I don't want to go to work.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you don't necessarily want to go to class, but at the end of the day, it's like you end up making that choice, that, you know, that tough choice in the moment. You end up going to the gym, you end up going to work, you end up going to school. And in the middle of it, you kind of like, sometimes, yeah, it is a grind and it's tough, but most often than not, I found that I find myself enjoying it when I'm in it. And it's like,
Mhm.
it's something that's like, oh, I didn't expect this. I've been doing it for so long, but I didn't expect it in this instance where this was the last thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, for if you go to the gym, it ends up being, you know, it ends up being a great pump and you made a lot of gains. But even then, even if you feel like it was a crappy workout, you still made the decision to move forward, to go, you know, to get out of your comfort zone, where whatever you were doing, and, you know, stay consistent towards a goal that you at some point had,
Mm-hmm.
and just, you know, recontextualizing that and thinking about, why am I doing what I do? Why did you start going to the gym in the first place?
Right.
You know, why are you in the field that you're working
Why
in?
did I go to school for years to do this one specific thing?
Exactly. And I think sometimes, you know, going back to the why, you have to find that by either some sort of introspection or just doing the thing that you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And like I said, if you're doing the thing and getting stuck, not settling for being stuck. You know, there was a great um concept that I read recently in a book that I'll probably talk about later on in the season. But it was that we've all kind of come around to the idea that failure is part of the process. But the one thing that we sometimes don't remember is that it can't be an acceptable result. Like, it's not the end goal. We can fail and we can fail, but if we continue to fail and we accept it as the end of the process, then we're not learning from our failure, right? Because failure, the greatest teacher is, right?
It's
Master
failure,
Yoda.
yeah.
But if we're not taking the lesson from it, once you get stuck, you have to be like, why am I stuck? What is it that's broken? Usually it's not the system. And I'm not talking about organizations. I'm talking about, for example, as a teacher, education, you know? What's the broken parts and what can I do to fix it, you know?
yeah.
On the show, if we're in a rut, okay, why? It isn't the concept of the show as a whole, because if I wanted to do it at some point, there was a reason for it. So where have I lost the vision? And that goes with your relationships too, you know? If you're in a rut, well, what's the thing? You know, what is not propelling you forward? Where's the missing McGuffin? And how can we identify it in order to move forward? Because there's a reason we do the things we do, you know,
Exactly.
more often than not.
And, you know, especially like going back to what you were discussing about failure, like failures and setbacks and losses, L's, as the kids are calling it these days,
I have heard that, yeah.
is something that it's too true. It's so real. And I think a lot of times, whether it be, you know, through social media or like just the perception that we want to give, like no one wants to like put off that they failed. No one wants to put out like,
Yeah.
no one wants, that's not what they want to like present to other people. And I mean, that's fine. That's your choice. That you do whatever you do, and you address it however you want to. But as I get older, I found like, coming from a person that, you know, as I was younger, I really cared what other people thought. Like I cared about my perception, the perception that my reputation in everyone's eyes, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but to the point where it's like I started becoming someone that I wasn't. I was trying to like feign things or not be as genuine as who I am. And over the years, like failure has taught me so much. And even recently, like, I mean, I think we'll get an episode on that, but I think like setbacks and failures, and that makes us who we are. That shows us so many things about life and the stuff that, you know, that we're made of or that we aren't made of yet. And it helps to build us. It helps to propel us in life and move forward. And that's, you know, that's a theme. That's a topic that I think that we're going to talk about heavily throughout the season. But I think as the computer there chimes,
I don't think they can hear that.
Oh, well, surprise. I think that this season, like I'm excited for this season as I've been rejuvenated. I have just this, you know, so many ideas that I want to, you know, do. And I know that like some of the other team have really good ideas too. And just talking about that has gotten me really excited about the certain projects that we have lined up. But I'm definitely on board with the new direction of where I think that we're going. Kind of like pivoting a bit, but
yeah,
I think not necessarily pivoting, but I think evolving. I think
Mhm.
growing, and I think that's kind of I think if not one of the main themes I think for this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just for the season on the show, but the season in my life, I think.
Yeah.
That's my goal, to pivot, to evolve, and to grow. And we're going to have some failures along the way. And
That's inevitable.
but we're going to accept success as our final goal, and that we're going to keep striving for that. And I guess that's the journey that we're taking this season. So we invite you to join us in this season of growth and search.
Also, the NBA should investigate the Milwaukee Bucks for tampering, because that Damian Lillard trade deal that broke me this week.
Matthew Lillard?
No,
No.
Dame Lillard.
Is he his brother? Are
that
they
broke
related?
me. Maybe that'd be an
Okay.
interesting coincidence. But that is a big setback, and I know you were closing out, but I just
No,
had to,
I wasn't sure if I was closing out because I don't know if we'd still do that.
I just had to bring in that fact. It's been, setbacks has been, something like, we've had a lot of, triumphs in Miami recently.
You know
but
what? We've been positive, so like, why don't we just like share some gripes real quick in the last couple of minutes?
Yeah, sure. Okay. We didn't get Damian Lillard, even though that we should have.
I'm astonished.
I don't even want to talk about it.
You'll explain it to me later.
Yeah. Inter Miami lost a championship Wednesday.
That happened?
Yeah.
Messi
wasn't playing. He's injured.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I just assumed I didn't have to watch any of the games because we would just win them all.
That typically is what happens.
Okay.
But I don't know what happened to the team like that night that they played, because that was just not that. It looked like the first game when Messi Messi's first game before he got on.
Mm-hmm.
They were garbage. They were hot garbage, and I was
Okay.
like so embarrassed. I was like, he's coming onto this, and then Messi came in, and everything changed.
Okay.
Last night they played like it was that night again.
Well, last week.
Last week.
When they hear this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time travel. What else?
I'll tell you, there's way too many hours of All Elite Wrestling on TV, okay? And I love all of it, but I don't have time. I'm sorry, Tony.
It's too much.
I'm sorry, Tony. I don't know everything that's going on all the time. You're going to have to fill in the blanks. Video package that stuff for me, okay? So on Wednesday nights, tell me what happened on Friday night because I didn't watch it, okay? If I don't meal prep on Sunday, I didn't watch the Saturday night show either. And please, one pay-per-view a month, tops, okay?
And by the time we're listening to this,
There's probably
please,
12.
the Dolphins, please.
Okay, yeah. Just content in general. Guys, I don't need origins for everything. You listening to me? Warner Brothers, Universal, Disney, Comcast is Universal, right?
Yes.
I don't know how many mergers have happened. I don't need to know what happened before John Wick.
Only mergers in the business.
I don't need to know what happened to Batman's butler. Okay.
Oh, Pennyworth. True.
So I'm sure that the people who worked on these shows are very passionate and they had great ideas. I love you, but I can't. Okay.
And with that,
we're gonna stay positive.
we have a whole season for that. So,
Yeah.
Obviously excited to be back. Keep on searching and all that goodness. And just remember, tune in next week.
And stay hydrated.